My name is Wesley Littlefield with YourBassGuy.com, and today we're going way back to the invention of the plastic worm. I hadn't heard about this ever, and it kind of surprised me that I didn't understand or know the history of the plastic worm, even though I've fished with them for over 20 years. So it was really cool for me to see, hey, this is how the plastic worm got started, and it was just really informative, but also just really cool to sit down at ICAST and talk about fishing and about the history of fishing that doesn't get talked about enough. Let's get to the interview.
Chris Kent, current owner of Creme Lure Company. Now, the history of the worm started back in 1949 when Nick Creme got tired of digging up worms, wanted to find another way to rig these propeller rigs, multiple worm harnesses. They had plastic worms, but they were made out of rubber. They're real tough and hard, but this is right after the war, 1949, so it's up in Akron, Ohio. Had all the tire companies making rubber tires and all this new product and vinyl that was being developed after the war. So he and his wife would visit some chemists and get some different chemical compounds together and go cook them in the basement, cook them on their sink, and then go down and pour them in the basement. And they finally came up with a version that was good. It was pliable in the heat and in the winter, so it wouldn't be stiff like some baits get stiff in the winter. And so they came out with that and kind of fiddled around. And the thing about it is, back then nobody really fished. They just went to fish for food. It wasn't any like it is now when you go out and fish in competition. This was long before then. So he not only had to develop the worm, but he also had to develop a way to sell it.
A market.
Right. So they had their first big breakthrough, I think in 53, when they sold a bunch of 5,000 3-pack worms at World's Fair. And so that kind of started the ball rolling for $1 a piece. The thing about it, some of that was just used for novelty, put in somebody's drink or just as a joke, but it slowly developed. He came up with the first field staff, pro staff. Had a lot of literature, went out and actually taught people. A lot of the pros got their start working with him way back in the day. It was one of the help found the, back then it was FTMA, which is the ICAST now. But during all that time, just as a side note, my father was in the business too. He was counting minnows and worms in Tyler, Texas for a little small tackle store. And he overheard the owner of the shop call up to Creme Lure in Akron, Ohio and said, can we get some baits down there because we're really starting to sell. This was like in the early 60s. He goes, no, we don't sell direct and we always go through a distributor. He goes, oh, okay. So he said, do you like roses? And she goes, yeah. So he sent her a dozen rose bushes up to Akron, Ohio, and then 2 weeks later he got a big box of worms. So that's kind of one of the things that has led to everybody speculates why they built another plant in Tyler, Texas. Another reason why they built the plant in Tyler, Texas, because that's where everything kind of got started. You had skeeter boats about 35 miles away from Tyler. You had Lawrence up in Oklahoma. You just had all these things that were made to go out and search for fish. So you had a way to fish for them, you had a way to locate them, and you had something to fish out of. So it all came together. And so they continued to build. There were just so many different types of worms that came out. They were all open poured, and there's just so many baits that they came up, did hard baits, everything. They just did so many different baits. They moved to Tyler in 63, kept both plants open, and finally shut down the plant in Akron, Ohio, full-time in Texas. So they're continuing to develop, doing all the pro staff. And then in the 80s, Nick Creme died in 84 and sold the company. The family did after Cosma died in 89 to Creme Lure. So that's when Wayne got the company. He had been working as an OEM producer for them, because he was, mom and dad were just kind of little garage company. They didn't have much, and so they were doing stuff for him. And so they grew, and then finally were able to purchase them. And so they've took it from 1989 until last year when Wayne passed away. So it's just been there's a lot of history in there that it's very neat. And there's several books out there that have got nothing but full history of Creme Worms. So here we are today. There's people that still fish with original Creme Worm, still talk about their first bass, all that stuff. It's kind of exciting.
That is
So
cool.
all kind of comes together.
That was a lot of fun. I gotta admit, I really enjoyed my time at ICAST, specifically sitting down and learning about stuff that I just was completely ignorant of, and I couldn't find anything like that, you know, without really digging in. So I really want to get these kind of cool stories out. So if you've got a cool story, maybe your grandpa or you know somebody, something, leave a comment down below. Or if you want to see another one of my adventures at ICAST, Hobie invited me out on a fishing trip for Barramundi. It was a lot of fun. I'll leave that video right below me. Other than that, I want you guys to always remember that education is important, but fishing is essential.